So thank you everyone for joining. So today I'll be talking about some of the DevOps challenges and basically how do you scale DevOps as and when your environments and company grows. So this I decided to give this talk based on my experience moving from a smaller startup to a large corporation, and having like massive amounts of code, massive amounts of projects and applications, and just I decided to like give a talk on my experiences on what are some of the things that I've seen in the challenges of scaling DevOps, and how can you have like a plan in place to make sure that you actually get to implement these DevOps in your organization if you don't have them right now. So just a quick intro about me. I'm a software security engineer at Block. I actually work in the security DevOps team. So which is why I actually got inspired to do this. And before that, I worked as a also like an infrastructure security engineer at a startup. I graduated from Georgia Tech in a master's in cybersecurity, but I'm all over the place in when it comes to tech. So love everything like Gen AI, cybersecurity, as well as like anything you can talk about tech. I'll really love to have a chat about that. Uh, so yeah, so just to like start off, let us like try to understand what exactly is DevOps, right? So it is a combination of two words, development and operations. So this sort of like a team that sits at the intersection of development and operations, and they basically help to make the whole experience seamless for everyone, the people who are making the software and people who are also responsible for shipping the software. And the goal here is to have faster delivery, and higher quality of software shipping, as well as like improved stability and reliability in your system. Um, yeah, and just a quick heads up. I'll be sharing these slides. So I'll have a QR code at the end. So if you're taking pictures, you can just not worry about it, because I'll have the QR code. You can download the slides and refer to them later. So why would you want to scale your DevOps, or even just your infrastructure environment? So it has proven benefits actually. It has a good amount of velocity. It has a good amount of efficiency and stability. And once you sort of get this figured out in a small team, you can actually do that in an enterprise setting for and scale the same thing across the organization. So if you have your DevOps setup working for like a small team, about 10 engineers, you can just simply scale the whole thing to make it work for like 1,000 engineers, 10,000 engineers, and that's the beauty of DevOps. Um, and but while all that sounds easy, there are some challenges along the way when you decide to do that. It is not as straightforward as I said, where like you have just a setup ready and just make it work across multiple settings. So there are a lot of cultural, technical, and process hurdles that are involved in this. So this is not going to be like a super technical talk. In general, I'm just going to be talking about engineering culture, software engineering culture, and how can you improve that and make the perception about DevOps really appealing to everyone. So why is scaling harder than actually getting started? And there are multiple reasons for that. Now after COVID, a lot of teams have been distributed. Everybody's working in a remote setting, so you have a lot of different barriers, from not just like time barriers, but also geographic barriers. And if you have like a very big organization, you may also have different tech stacks, because what happens is, as an organization starts to grow, they end up acquiring smaller smaller companies, smaller teams, and they might have their own tech stacks. And when they get merged into the bigger corporation, it creates a problem where there are like multiple tech stacks. So you'll be having multiple different frameworks being used inside of the organization. And this is very common at Block. So, and to give you an example, Block actually acquired a company called Afterpay. And the company had a completely different stack. And basically that's how it started to grow. And this is even prevalent in like bigger companies like Google and Microsoft, who have been on an acquisition spree for so many years now. And then there are organizational silos as well. And as and when like the organization grows, you have like functional divisions inside of an organization that do different tasks and different goals, and that also adds to the complexity. And then you also have this problem of legacy systems. So a lot of the critical infrastructure still runs on legacy systems. Like you have these very old enterprise systems that are running on very old like Java servers, and you might have heard of this like if it works, don't change it. So that's sort of how it has been all the way since then, because if it's working for a lot of people, why even change this? So that is why you have a lot of legacy system debt that is that actually exists even today. So like to give you in perspective, 72% of architectures inside of companies actually run on legacy systems. And then there's an added governance and tool management, security issues, and security always gets in the way of really good development, but it's of course necessary. So I guess organizational silos would be like isolated teams. You have different teams that do DevOps, different teams that do QA. Then you have the security team that. Then you also have like compliance teams. So as and when the main idea here is that like as and when your organization grows, you will be it'll be harder and harder to incentivize this culture of DevOps or like considering DevOps. So ideally, it is a good idea to like as in when you're small and when you're just like getting started, just start it from there. And which is why like having these engineering design decisions at the start of your starting of like anything like a product or a company is very important. And let's just take a look at some data. So these are some of the high costs of these organizational silos. So knowledge workers spend about approximately 12 hours a week just to like chase data or chase information about something that they want to ship. Costs companies a lot of money. On average, it's about $13 million. And since these are like legacy systems, there's also a risk of security. And the breach cost is about $4.35 million. And then eventually it results in slow progress because it has this not our problem mentality associated with that, as in when an organization starts to grow. So what are some of the strategies we can use? And these might sound pretty straightforward, but they actually work. So you have like collaboration tools. I'm sure all of you guys must be using these. And there has to be a really good cross-functional integration between a lot of these teams for this to work. And there has to be, in order for this to work, you need to have some metrics, and these need to be shared metrics. So for cross-functional effectiveness, you can use shared KPIs, and then of course there's always this part of continuous learning where you have really good documentation about how you can build this culture in your team. So these are like, if you think about it, these are the obvious things that you should be doing. But I mean, of course, there are some hidden challenges behind that. But like just if you just think about it, these are like very obvious things that you should be doing in your organization to make this work. And if you're planning to also like modernize your legacy systems, one good thing that is always to consider is just avoid the big bang, because if you have like a lot of legacy servers, a good idea would be to have a phased migration or a phased like process of doing that in an incremental way. Usually, full rewrites are very risky. If you have like if you work with a lot of reliable systems, and there are these new technologies that are coming out. Like for example, Terraform is pretty effective for infrastructure as a code, where you can like maintain all of these systems through IAC, and that is actually a reliable way of controlling how your infrastructure is managed, and it is a super powerful tool. If you haven't heard of Terraform, do take a look at that. It's pretty effective in maintaining all of these infrastructures. And of course, you have heard of these buzzwords about microservices and containerization. So a lot of these organizations are starting to use that. But one thing to actually note about this is to make sure that all of these technologies have some sort of solid foundation behind them. So just to give you an example, I guess a few years ago, Twitter came out with their own database technology, and it was a really cool modern new database system. But what happened was the team behind that, I think they ended up creating a separate company out of that. But what happened was that they ended up going bankrupt. So the whole database system behind that, they had to scrape the whole project. And companies who had started to adopt that were now in a big problem, because there was no support, there was no incremental upgrades to fix if there are any bugs, and which is why it is very important to have this solid foundation where you know that, okay, now this is going to work, and this is going to work for the next 30 years, next 40 years, and we don't have to worry about that. And containerized technologies, they have been proven to be super robust, and they have proven to be working, and which is why a lot of these companies are also ending up adopting them pretty quickly. And there are some things about how you can cultivate a DevOps culture, and we just need to understand that it's a cultural shift. So everyone in the organization needs to appreciate how good these tools are. And as I mentioned before, there are some core tenets associated with that everyone needs to consider. And you might break a few things at the start, or you might have issues having everyone adopt that, but that's usually it's going to be really beneficial for you in the long run if you think about it from a perspective of like 20 years down the line, or even longer. It also simplifies like migrations if you decide to like move to a whole new set of like infrastructure. It simplifies a lot of these things, and it makes things way easier and way convenient. Because I've seen cases where organizations spend years and years just to like migrate to a different cloud platform, and that's actually burning a lot of money, because you still have to pay the bills for those 2 years that your system is running, right? So just implementing all of these tools is pretty useful. And there's actually a skill gap. There are like industry data has shown that there's actually a shortage of these people who are skilled enough to do these kinds of things, and have senior people who can encourage this kind of a culture in an organization. And it is actually consistently ranked as a top challenge to find DevOps engineers. So if you're actually considering, if you're not from the IT industry, and if you want to like do a career transition, maybe you can consider upskilling in DevOps. So I have like two really small case studies. One is from Netflix and the other one is from Amazon, and how like shifting to DevOps actually helped them. I mean, you might have known. I mean, a lot of engineers do talk about this story, and I think Netflix also has a really good, interesting engineering blog about this. And they, as in when Netflix was actually growing, scale was a big problem for them, and they had a lot of these outages, and which is why they said they moved to a whole different set of architectures where they started introducing microservices and heavy DevOps automation, and they eventually recovered from that, and they had way lesser outages just by having this DevOps cultural shift. A similar example is for Amazon. Actually, Amazon has this culture of if you build it, you run it, and you also own it, and which is why they have this higher deployment frequency, and they have like really good development rate, as well as they have fixed the problem of downtime as well. So some common themes here are just have a strategic cloud adoption, have this culture of ownership and collaboration, and extensively consider investing in things like automation and observability. And just to end this, I'd like to just do some conclusive remarks. Here, the goal here is to have like an enterprise-wide achieve like enterprise-wide speed, stability, and efficiency, and we can achieve that through DevOps. The reality is that it is a complex journey that has multiple different challenges that we discussed, but the path is through data-driven decisions, and it has proven to work, and it definitely does its magic once you have that. And yeah, as I said, you can download the slides from scanning the QR code or just like going to the link. And if you want to connect with me, these are the two ways you can do that. And yeah, I do use email as well, so consider emailing me if you have any questions. Yeah, thank you.